Hey everybody, it's Albert. A few weeks back, I made a video describing how Acharya in attempting to prove that the Phrygian god Attis had was said to have been crucified, cited Jose V. Harari as stating that Attis, calling him the castrated and crucified Attis, and how she used this as evidence that Attis was considered crucified in the ancient world. I then pointed out that actually in that text, he was not describing Attis as he appeared in ancient literature, but as he appeared in a 20th century poem by William Butler Yeats. And in fact, even in that place, he wasn't actually crucified. It was merely using Attis hanging between two leaves that were in the different spring and fall foliage, and hanging between them and simulating a crucifixion pose in the poem, that this was being used as a metaphor for the segue between the classical period and the Christian period to follow, that actually Attis was not considered crucified. And I sort of gave the opinion that she likely never even read this book, but just picked up Castrated and Crucified Attis out of a Google book search, because nobody could actually read the text and use it as evidence of what she did. And in fact, I also pointed out that the text was not actually written by Harari. He was the editor of the book, not the author. She quoted him as saying this. In fact, it was Paul Damon who wrote a book called Semiology and Rhetoric, which is actually a fairly well-known text among people in the literary field in terms of textual criticism. It's been printed in numerous books, including the volume that Harari edited, which was titled Textual Strategies, Perspectives, and Post-Structuralist Criticism. Well, I thought that pretty much settled the issue. I mean, she blew it. I mean, it was embarrassing. It was just totally ridiculous. But it was pretty much par for the course for Acharya-S type stuff, and it didn't really come to me as any great surprise. Well, what was interesting is that the video got picked up in a conspiracy theorist website titled Above Top Secret. And it was someone used it and posted it in their forums. I wasn't aware of this because I don't really pay much attention to conspiracy theorist websites. And it generated the usual exchanges. And then there was a couple of comments by someone who, although the username's obviously different, this is a different forum, look familiar. There's a certain individual or individuals, and if you've ever criticized Acharya in any major venue like YouTube, you've probably run into this person who seems to have as their modus operandi to cite endless links to Acharya's forums. Here. Basically, it's supposed to answer everything. Well, first of all, anyone who's ever looked at those forums, I mean, they were utterly ridiculous. Anyway, the only thing that any thread in that forum would prove is your own credulity. But that being the case, whatever. They also stated that I was obviously, not to be trusted, and they pointed out that everything I said was erroneous. And this individual stated that, in fact, he gave a link to the Amazon page for the book and said, see, it lists Harari as the author, so obviously he's wrong. Well, I kind of laughed at that because lots of books, on Amazon, the editors of volumes of papers, academic papers, are often listed as the author on Amazon by mistake. So that proved nothing. But more importantly, if you looked at the picture of the book on the very link this person gave, it clearly stated that Harari was the editor of the volume and the author of the introduction. And so I put up a username for that forum and added the comments basically saying, look, this person doesn't know what they're talking about, and explained that what I just told you, and said I would get back at some point in the future once I got a hold of the volume again, because I had originally gotten it from a library. I said I would get another copy or get the same copy out of the library, and I would just go ahead and show it. Well, the time has come. This is the very volume she quoted from, Textual Strategies, Perspectives, and Post-Structuralist Criticism. And I want you to notice that it states, edited and with an introduction by Jose V. Harari. He did not write everything in the book. He's not the author of the book. He's the editor of a volume of academic papers. And in fact, once you open up this book, again, you'll see in the title, there's a title page where he's editor and with an introduction by Jose V. Harari. And now we go to, now remember, the quoted page is 131. The cited page is, that's the only page where Attis appears in the whole book. The name of the god Attis appears anywhere in the book is on page 131. But I want you to notice here, I'll try to get this as close to the screen as I can. You'll see right there, Paul de Man begins at page 121, goes to page 141, and just as I said in my post and the video, it's a paper titled Semiology and Rhetoric. Okay. Now, I'm going to go to page 131. Well, first, let's see. Okay. I'm at page 131 now. And I want you to notice, first of all, up here at the top, it says Semiology and Rhetoric. So that's the paper they're describing on this page. And I just want to find the correct location on the page for what I cited, where Attis appears. And it begins right on the line, right about where my finger is here. Okay? And I'll read, it says, the oneness of trunk, leaf, and blossom, for example, that would have appealed to Goethe, would find itself replaced by the much less reassuring tree of life from the Mabinogion that appears in the poem Vacillation, in which the fiery blossom and earthly leaf are held together as well as apart by the crucified and castrated Attis, of whose body it can hardly be said that it is not bruised to pleasure the soul. To pleasure the soul. So it's right there. You can read it. In fact, she quoted someone in the paper. De Man's talking about Yeats' work, and he refers to a poem titled Vacillation, in which Attis appears. In fact, I even quoted from later on in my blog post, I had quoted from the poem and pointed out all that, where it appears. So Attis isn't actually even crucified in the thing. They just have him use the crucifixion as a metaphor, because he appears with his arms spread between the two leaves of fall and spring to signify the rising and falling and all sorts of stuff like that. But most importantly, it's a 20th century poem. It has nothing to do with Attis in the ancient world. And to use it indicates that you've never actually read it. You haven't read it. And also this indicates that this person who stated that I lied, and now obviously I haven't. I've got the book right in my hand, and I showed it to you. And I'm also, at some point on my blog, I'm going to show pictures of the pages. I'm going to, in the next 24 hours, probably make pictures of the pages and put them up as well. This person's a liar. They're exposed. They're total frauds. In fact, that's anyone who believes anything that woman says is a fraud. And tries to defend her. Come on. When I expose something as ridiculous as this, and you actually have to lie about a book you've obviously never read, that is indicative of the desperation of her fanboys. It's pathetic. But then that's pretty much what I've come to expect from this crowd. Thank you very much for your time.